What's up everyone, and welcome back to JohnnyKpicks, and in this video I'll be going over my full card picks and predictions along with my bets so far for UFC Paris, Gane versus Tuivasa. As always, please hit that like button, and if you're new to the channel or you just haven't subscribed yet, please hit that button as well. And if you're doing both of those, please hit the notifications so you don't miss out on any of my new videos or live streams. Alright, so UFC 278 feels like it's been a month, but it's only been 2 weeks. But fortunately, I was out of town and I didn't get to watch any of those fights live. But man, it was a disaster yet again. On my picks, I ended up going 5, 6, and 1, which I believe is the worst I've ever done since I started my YouTube channel. Not the greatest night of nights that I had, and I'm going to make no excuses. It's just, it is what it is. I thought I had some good plays. I thought I had some good picks. But I will say, not to say that this is an excuse, but the UFC has been very crazy lately with the upsets and the crazy finishes that's been going on, which does make for good entertainment. But man, my picks have just been awful. I'll admit it. Like I said, I'm not going to shy away. My bets haven't been too much better. But yeah, it's time again. We had that week off. Hopefully I recharged my brain and we are back at it here. So let's get back to work. I will say though, the only fight that I did go back and rewatch from UFC 278 was the Usman and Edwards fight. I just wanted to see how it finished because I did see that he won by knockout, and man, that was a very good knockout kick from him. It did go the way that I thought it was gonna go. Usman was gonna dominate the rounds and probably win by decision, but it only takes one punch or one kick in the UFC to win a fight, and that's what happened. I guess they may do a rematch coming up on the next fight. So if they do, I'm definitely going to pick Usman again. I'm not going to say it was a fluke kick, but more than likely, I think Usman will be ready for that again, and he will dominate just like he did in the first fight. But very good win for Edwards. I'm happy for him. And this just goes to show you that you can look like a genius for 4.5 rounds picking Usman, and it just takes one kick in 1 minute to just lose it all. So it's all good though, but it was a very good fight. But alright guys, let's jump right into my picks and predictions for UFC Paris. The first fight we have is William Gomis versus Errens. Gomis is 10-2, 25 years old, 6 foot with a 74-inch reach. And Errens is 13-3-1, 27 years old, 5'11", and I'm not sure his reach. Alright, so to open up the night, we have two fighters that are making their UFC debuts. And actually, both guys are pretty well-rounded. They both have pretty good striking. They both have good wrestling and grappling. I will say, though, Gomis does have good power, and he does have good submissions as well. And with Errens, he does have good striking, like I said, but he likes to push forward and put a pace on his opponents. But he's more so a striker than a wrestler, but I think Gomis is more well-rounded. He can go to his wrestling if he wants to, or he can stay on the feet and strike with his opponent. And as always, it's always hard to predict these kinds of fights if they're both making their UFC debuts, but with my pick, I'm going to go with Gomis. I just like his striking a little bit more. I think he does have really good counters, so if Errens is pushing forward, he might be able to counter him. And again, if this fight goes on the mat, I do favor Gomis as well a little bit. I like his wrestling a little bit more. He does go for takedowns more than Errens, and he does have a little bit better submissions as well. So with my pick here, I'm going to say Gomis wins, but I do think it goes a distance, and he's going to win by decision. Next fight we have is Perez versus Stephanie Egger. Perez is 7-1, 27 years old, 5'5", with a 66-inch reach, and Egger is 7-3, 34 years old, 5'6", with a 68-inch reach. Okay, so Perez is going to be making her UFC debut in this fight, and she has pretty good striking, but she's more so a wrestler and grappler. She does like to push forward and use her striking to set up her takedowns, and when she does get in top control, she does work for submissions. And with Egger, she's taking this fight on short notice. I believe she actually fought like 2 weeks ago. She did end up losing by submission really quick in the fight. But she is an amazing grappler. She has very good trips and takedowns with her judo. Her striking isn't the greatest, but she can hold her own. And again, this is another tough fight to predict because with all the intangibles going on, I do like Edgar to win here, but I am a little worried about her taking this fight on short notice. But I'm going to go with her to win this fight. I think her UFC experience will pay off here. And if this fight does go to the ground, she's always going to be live for submissions, whether it's on her back or whether she's on top control. But I will say though, Perez is pretty good when she is on top. She doesn't put herself in bad situations, so it's going to be an interesting fight to see who does get the takedowns first. So I'm going to go with Edgar, like I said, and I'm going to say Edgar wins this one by a decision. Moving on up the card, we have Khalid Taha versus Christian Quinonez. Taha is 13-4, 29 years old, 5'5" with a 69-inch reach. And Quinonez is 16-3, 26 years old, 5'7" with a 70-inch reach. Okay, so Taha is a pretty good striker with some power. He does like to push forward, but he doesn't really wrestle or grapple too much, but he's not awful if he does have to do it. And Quinonez is making his UFC debut on short notice, but he's more of a wrestler, grappler guy. He's super aggressive for the takedowns. He's almost too aggressive to a fault. And he also likes to use his striking to set up his takedowns too. But he goes all out in the first round. And sometimes that works out for him and sometimes it doesn't. So I know I've been saying this the last couple fights I just did, but this is another tough fight to break down because of all the intangibles. Quinonez is making his UFC debut on short notice. Taha's not the greatest of fighters, but he's pretty solid. But I'm going to roll the dice on this one a little bit. I know he's the slight favorite now, but I'm going to go with Taha to win this one. I can see Quinonez looking really good in the first round, but I'm kind of interested to see what the second round will bring him. I don't know if the short notice is going to play a part in this, in his cardio, but if Taha can survive the first round, I do see him taking over rounds 2 and 3 and maybe potentially getting a third round finish, but I'm going to go with a decision here. So with my pick, I'm going to say Taha wins by decision. Next fight we have is Benoit Saint-Denis versus Gabriel Miranda. Saint-Denis is 9-1, 26 years old, 5'11" with a 73-inch reach. And Miranda is 16-5, 32 years old, 5'11", and I'm not sure his reach. So this is a very interesting fight. Benoit is a very solid fighter. He's got good striking. He's got good power in his hands. He likes to push forward. He's got good takedowns. He's a good wrestler, and he has good submissions as well. The only knock on him is he is a little hittable at times, but he is tough and durable, so he can get away with that right now. And Miranda is making his UFC debut. And yes, it's on short notice too, but he is mainly a grappler and that's about it. He does not have very good striking. He doesn't really even want to strike, it looks like in his videos that I saw, but he does have good submissions. He does want to take this fight to the mat and make it a grappling match. So for me, I like Benoit in this fight. I think he's going to have the huge advantage on the feet with his striking. And if he does decide to go for takedowns, I think Miranda will probably let him take him down because he wants to get this fight to the mat, like I said. And when Benoit is on top control, I do think he'll be able to play safe and not get submitted. But I think the easiest path to victory for Benoit here, though, is keep the fight standing, just strike with him, stuff any takedowns that Miranda tries to do, and just maybe win by knockout here. So with my pick here, I'm going to go with Benoit winning this one by a knockout. Next fight we have Nasruddin Imavov versus Joaquin Buckley. Imavov is 11-3, 26 years old, 6'3" with a 75-inch reach. And Buckley is 15-4, 28 years old, 5'10" with a 76-inch reach. All right, so this is the first fight that I'm really looking forward to, and I'm actually really high on both these guys. But Imavov is more of a well-rounded fighter than Buckley, I think. He's got good technical striking and boxing. He's got good wrestling with good grappling and submissions. And with Buckley, he's super explosive. He's got very good power. His striking isn't the most technical, but if he does land one of his kicks or hooks, you're going down. So you got to be careful about that. He can be hittable at times and also slow down as the fight goes on. But the first round, round and a half, he's going to be very dangerous. And not to mention, Buckley does have decent wrestling as well and good takedown defense. So if Imavov does want to use his wrestling, Buckley will be able to stuff the majority of those takedowns. But I've been going back and forth on this fight for the last week, I feel like. But I'm going to go with Imavov to win. I just think if wherever this fight goes, I think he's going to be okay. If the fight stays on the feet, I do think he'll be able to outstrike Buckley and stay safe and not get knocked out. Or if he wants to try to use his wrestling, I do think eventually he'll be able to get Buckley down maybe in the later rounds when he gets a little bit more tired. And he should be able to stay in top control and maybe get a submission or a ground and pound knockout. So with my pick here, though, I'm going to say Imavov does get the knockout later in the fight, maybe the late second or third round. Moving on up the card, we have Fares Ziam versus Figlak. Ziam is 12-4, 25 years old, 6'1" with a 75-inch reach. And Figlak is 8-0, 26 years old, 5'10", and I'm not sure his reach. Okay, so the return of Ziam has come. So it looks like the UFC brought him back for UFC Paris because maybe he's French, I don't know. But they cut him a while ago, and all of a sudden he's back. But Ziam is a good technical striker. He doesn't have a lot of power. He is kind of low volume though, and his takedown defense is god-awful. He has no ground game whatsoever. And Figlak is making his UFC debut, and he does have decent striking with good power, along with pretty good wrestling and takedowns. So for me, this is an easy no-brainer breakdown here. On the feet, I do think Ziam might have the slight edge just because he's the more technical striker, but Figlak is going to have a huge advantage in the wrestling department, and I do think he'll be able to take them down whenever he wants, and that's what he needs to do. Just rinse and repeat, take him down, stay in top control, maybe get a ground and pound knockout, because once you get him down, I don't think he's going to try to get back up, and he's just going to play it safe and just not get submitted. But if Figlak pulls a loopy and doesn't go for takedowns, I think Ziam can win this fight fairly easily too. But I'm going to go with Figlak with my pick, and I'm going to say he wins this one by a decision. Next fight we have is Dustin Stoltzfus versus Abus Magomedov. Stoltzfus is 14-4, 30 years old, 6 foot with 75-inch reach. And Magomedov is 24-4-1, 32 years old, 6'2" with a 78-inch reach. So it looks like Stoltzfus is back for more. He fought about 2 or 3 weeks ago, but he's more of a wrestler, grappler kind of fighter. He does have decent striking, if you want to say. He's not technical at all, though. He does have power in his hands, but they're more of just wild and crazy looping strikes that he tries to hit his opponent with. And Magomedov is a good striker. He's got very good power in his hands. He does have decent wrestling, but he likes to keep the fight standing, and he only uses his wrestling if he's in trouble or if the timing is right, maybe. But I like Magomedov in this fight. I do think he's going to be the way better striker. Stoltzfus is very hittable, especially when he throws looping hooks like he always does. So I think Magomedov will eventually catch him with one of those strikes, and he'll be able to stuff the takedowns. I do think of Stoltzfus as well. I don't think Stoltzfus has the best wrestling. He does have to work very hard to get a takedown. It's not like a clean, like single leg takedown or a double leg. He has to put him up against the cage and work for like 30 seconds to finally get a takedown. So with my pick here, I'm going to say Magomedov wins this one by a knockout. Moving on up the card, we have Charles Jourdain versus Nathaniel Wood. Jourdain is 13-5-1, 26 years old, 5'9" with a 69-inch reach. And Wood is 18-5, 29 years old, 5'6" with a 69-inch reach. All right, so fight number 2 of the fights that I'm really looking forward to. And both of these guys are just super fun to watch for me. So Jourdain is mainly a striker. He has very good striking. He's got decent power. He's got good grappling, but he likes to stand on the feet and use his elbows, flying knees, high kicks, anything crazy for a knockout finish. And Wood is also a good striker. He got very good technical boxing. He's very quick ever since moving up to featherweight. And he also does have good wrestling in his back pocket if he wants to use this, but he's mainly a striker as well. He doesn't have the biggest power, but he does have like I said, very good technical, quick counters, strikes, jabs. And like I said, I really like both of these guys, but I'm going to go with the underdog here and pick Wood to win. I was just really impressed with Wood's last fight. He looked very sharp. I know he didn't fight the greatest of fighters, but I do think in this fight, his style matches up well against Jourdain. For Jourdain to win, he needs to make this a brawl, like a dirty fight. Try to make this a slugfest, but that's not Wood's game. He doesn't want to make it a slugfest. He wants to look super technical, make this a super sharp boxing match. And if he does that for 3 rounds, I do believe he'll be able to win at least 2 of those rounds against Jourdain, because Jourdain does seem to get stronger as the fight goes on. So maybe the 3rd round goes to Jourdain, and the 1st round might go to Wood. So maybe in this fight, whoever wins the 2nd round is going to win this fight, because I don't see a finish in this fight. So with my pick, I'm going to go with Wood to win this one, and I say he wins by a decision. Next fight we have is Nasrat Haqparast versus John Makdessi. Nasrat is 13-5, 27 years old, 5'10" with a 72-inch reach. And Makdessi is 18-7, 37 years old, 5'8" with a 68-inch reach. So both of the guys are strikers. They don't use any wrestling that much. They don't grapple. They just want to stand in the middle of the ring and strike. But the only difference for me between these guys is I think Nasrat's a little bit quicker with his strikes. I think he has a little bit more power as well. And he's going to have the longer reach. And for Makdessi, I think he is the more technical striker though. And like I said, I don't think this fight's going to go to the mat at all. So I'm going to skip all of that. So for me, I'm going to go with Nasrat to win. Like I said, I think he's a little bit more quicker. I think he's going to throw a little bit more volume. He's going to land the more impactful shots with his power. And if Nasrat can use those leg kicks to slow down Makdessi, it's going to play dividends as the fight goes on. And not to mention, Nasrat's about 10 years younger, so that's going to play a big part in this fight as well. So with my pick, I'm going to go with Nasrat to win this one by a decision. Next fight we have is Alessio Di Chirico versus Roman Kopylov. Alessio is 13-6, 32 years old, 6 foot with a 74-inch reach. And Kopylov is 8-2, 31 years old, 6 foot with a 75-inch reach. Okay, so yeah, this is one of the fights that's on the main card. But both these guys are mainly strikers, and they're both kind of low volume. If I had to choose one of these guys, I will say Kopylov does have the slight technical edge in striking, maybe a little bit more power as well, but he's even more low volume than Alessio. And if we're going to go with the wrestling department, I'm going to give Alessio the pretty big advantage. Kopylov doesn't really go for takedowns at all. He wants to stand on the feet and just strike. But Alessio does have okay wrestling. And for me, that's his biggest advantage in this fight. And again, this is a very close fight, very tough fight to predict. But it all depends on the wrestling. Is Alessio going to be able to wrestle and take down Kopylov? I think he should, and I think he will. But will he do it? Will he pull a loopy and not do it? I don't know. That's what I'm trying to figure out as well. But I flipped a coin, and the coin landed on Alessio. I'm going to pick Alessio to win. I'm going to hope he tries to go for takedowns and maybe get some control time early in the fight and win it that way. If not, it's going to be a lot closer on the feet. And I see this fight going to the judges' scorecards. And it could be a toss-up. It could be a split decision. But with my pick, I'm going to go with Alessio to win by decision. All right, co-main event time here. We have Robert Whittaker versus Marvin Vettori. Whittaker is 23-6, 31 years old, 6 foot with a 73.5-inch reach. And Vettori is 18-4-1, 28 years old, 6 foot with a 74-inch reach. All right, so here are the real fights, the co-main event. So Whittaker is a very good striker. He's got quick strikes as well. He got good leg kicks with decent power, but lately he hasn't been able to finish anybody since I think 5 years ago. He also does have decent wrestling if he wants to go for takedowns, but in this fight, I don't see him trying to use his wrestling against Vettori. And with Vettori, he's looked like the wrestler the last 4 or 5 fights, but he does have pretty good striking, but his takedowns are really good. He doesn't really have a lot of finishing power either, but like I said, he's got good takedowns, good wrestling, good chop control, and he does have decent submissions as well. Both guys are very tough, so I do think this fight's going to go to the judges' scorecards, but I'm going to go with Whittaker here. I just think he's the better fighter at the moment. He's got the better striking, and I do think he'll be able to stuff Vettori's takedowns early especially. Maybe later on in the fight, Vettori will get to him, but I do think Whittaker can win the first 2 rounds, at least, just outstriking him and landing the cleaner shots. I know Vettori has a blockhead. It doesn't seem like he can get knocked out, but there is a slight chance. Like I said, I like Whittaker in this fight a lot, so with my pick, I'm going to say Whittaker wins this one by a decision. Okay, main event time here. We have Gane versus Tuivasa. Gane is 10-1, 32 years old, 6'4", with an 83-inch reach. And Tuivasa is 15-3, 29 years old, 6'2", with a 75-inch reach. Okay, so we got a great main event fight here. And Gane is very well-rounded. He's a very good technical striker for the heavyweight division. Very good striking defense. It doesn't seem like he gets hit a lot, and when he does, it's just glancing. And he likes to use his leg kicks to stay at range. He does have okay wrestling and grappling with submissions, but he likes to strike. He doesn't really go for that unless the opportunity presents itself. And Ty is just a traditional heavyweight. He likes to go in there, stand and bang in the middle of the ring, and just slug it out. He's got a ton of power, and he's not afraid of trading blows to land the stronger strike. Not to mention, he's super durable. If you remember back in the Derek Lewis fight, he did take a couple good shots from him, and he stayed on his feet and ended up getting the knockout himself. But on the mat, he doesn't really have too much to offer, so if Gane does use his wrestling, maybe in the later rounds when he's a little tired, he could probably get him down into the ground fairly easily. But in this fight, I gotta go with Gane here. I think he's the better overall fighter. The only thing that I will say, though, is Ty does have a puncher's chance. He's got tons of power, so if he does land a counter shot maybe when Gane tries to go in a little too close, he can catch him and maybe drop him. But if Gane can go 5 rounds with Ngannou and not get cracked, I think he can go 5 rounds or less with Ty and not get cracked as well. So with my pick here, I'm going to say Gane wins this one by a finish, maybe in the late 3rd round, 4th round range. I don't know if it's going to be by a submission or a knockout, but I will pick submission just to throw a monkey wrench in there. How about that? But all right, guys, those are my picks and predictions so far. So let's jump right into my bets for UFC Paris. The first bet I have is a 2-fighter parlay. I bet 1.25 units on Saint-Denis and Whittaker to win, and I got that at plus 101. So I really like both these guys as matchups. Benoit's going to have the huge striking advantage on the feet. The only thing he has to worry about is submission. So if he can keep this fight standing, he's going to have a huge advantage. Like I said, Miranda doesn't really want to strike. He wants to get this fight to the mat and use his submission game. And Benoit does have good wrestling and submissions himself, but if he does keep this fight standing, I think he can win this one fairly easily with a knockout. And with Whittaker, again, I think he's going to have the edge on the feet. The only thing he really needs to worry about is stuffing Vettori's takedowns. And if he can stuff the majority of them, I think he can be able to outstrike Vettori throughout 3 rounds and win by decision. And the last bet I have for now, which I will have more as the week goes on, is a 2-leg over-under parlay. I bet 1.25 units on the over 2.5 rounds in the Whittaker-Vettori fight and the over 2.5 rounds in the Jourdain-Wood fight, and I got that at plus 133. So with Whittaker and Vettori, although they're good fighters, they don't really have a lot of finishes lately, and I don't see them finishing one another either. I think this fight should easily go over 2.5 rounds. The only thing I can see maybe is Whittaker catching Vettori maybe with a counter strike, and that just lands and drops him. But other than that, I don't see Vettori getting a knockout or a submission, and I think this should easily go over 2.5. And in the Jourdain-Wood fight, this one's a little bit riskier, I will admit, but I think this fight will go over 2.5 rounds. Jourdain is the only guy that I might see getting like a weird guillotine or something if the opportunity presents itself. But Wood is very technical, like I said. He doesn't really put himself in bad situations to get finished. And I do think this is going to be more of a striking match for all 3 rounds. And maybe at the very end, if Jourdain levels up and goes Super Saiyan in round 3, he may get a knockout. But I think this will go the distance. I think this will be a very good fight and should go to a close decision. All right, so there you have it. Picks, predictions, bets for UFC Paris. On your way out, please smash that like button. And like I said, if you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, please do so. Also, don't forget to come back and check in my comment section for any of the added bets that I place. Or you can also check my Instagram because I do post all of my bet slips each and every week. I hope everybody enjoys the fights this weekend. And until next time, happy fight night.